All right, let's recap some of the great work that we did this week. So this is your Unit 3 Week 1 recap video. And by far, this is the best work I've seen all year. I can't, normally I'm trying to dig through to see what answers I can find, who would have correct, and this week I actually had so many correct answers and great answers that I couldn't even put them all in at this time. So that's awesome. A few reminders. I am that I'm your English teacher, so please make sure that you are proofreading your responses, watch for capitalization, spelling, and punctuation errors, type the response in complete sentences. So a lot of you did very well. Just make sure you know that I'm able to understand what you're writing about and that I know that you actually know how to write because you're typing with correct capitalization, spelling, and punctuation. All right, so few things to look at. The first thing we need to look at is the world in 1850. So these are, you had to find 5 facts per column. And here are some things that Caitlin found, one of your classmates. She talked about the Industrial Revolution, the 1850 Compromise. Some things that were invented was an ice making machine, colored photography, dishwasher, sewing machines. So the art or the fashion was waistcoats became fancy for men, wore their hair parted to the side. Girls actually wore big poofy dresses with corsets, so it was kind of a very rich time at that point. And then she lists a bunch of famous writers. However, the big thing I wanted you to get from her ideas, and a lot of them were very good, so I'm super happy and I'm glad that you guys all got the background knowledge of the play of the world of 1850. But you need to realize that this was during the time of the Industrial Revolution. And when we are talking about Industrial Revolution, we're talking about industry. And industry makes mass production. So during this time in the Victorian era, it was very much so a rich, luxurious time period. It was very presumptuous, as one of our vocab words. So, because of this industrial revolution, it was a great idea that the poor were able to start to buy things that were a lot cheaper because of the mass product. Another is Erin Grealish's. She also did the same thing, the 1850 Compromise. She talked about Lincoln's 4-year-old son passed away. She talked about the White House. Some inventions is clothing, the sewing machine, thermodynamics. So we're talking about that science. She talked about the fashion with colorful, exuberant styles and luxurious fabrics, which we just talked about, the opera, and Vincent van Gogh, who's a famous artist at that time, and then a bunch of different writers like Uncle Tom's Cabin, Moby Dick, The Scarlet Letter. So all of those are very important events that happened in the world of 1850. However, for our play, we want to make sure that we realize, like I said, that there were only two different social classes at that time period. There were the rich, and then there was everyone else who was considered poor. And because Queen Victoria made things for the rich and luxurious. It was very handmade. It took time. It cost a lot of money. However, this mass production allowed the poor to be able to buy things. So Charles Dickens actually wrote this play to try and convince the Victorians, the Queen Victoria and her people over in Europe, to help support the poor. So that's where he came up with this idea of celebrating holidays. So let's look at some of our questions. So you guys had to read the play and then answer questions about them. And I was so impressed about our questions, guys. You did a very good job. A lot of these just were very outstanding. So just to look at a few. So for question 1, you had to describe the narrator's description of the scene and how it contributed to the beginning of scene 2. So at first, this was literally one sentence of the play. So very good, Anthony, and a lot of you caught on to this. At first, you hear Christmas music, and a lot of time that makes makes you feel joy and happiness. Um, but then, right after that one sentence, it starts to turn very dark. There's a tiny fire. It is dark. It makes it feel sad, very gloomy, which then contributes to how we see Scrooge's actions. So 2, compare and contrast Scrooge and the nephew in 3 details. So compare means the same. How are they similar? How contrast is the opposite. So you can choose any of the 3. So Anthony said, Scrooge is grumpy, the nephew is cheerful. The Scrooge is rich, nephew is poor, and they both think about Christmas in different ways, celebrating and not celebrating in different ways. So very good job, Anthony. The next one is Connor for number 3. This was a very big thing we talked about in class. What right do you have to be married? You're poor enough. What is he saying? Well, he's actually telling the nephew that he shouldn't be happy because he's poor. But the nephew refutes and responds with, what right do you have to be dismal? You're rich enough. And what is that saying? The nephew is saying that Scrooge shouldn't be happy because he's rich, although he is not happy. So it's kind of situational irony right there. Scrooge is rich and miserable, but the nephew is poor and happy. So that's something we wouldn't expect to happen. Because if I asked you before we even read the play, if you had all the money in the world, would you be happy? And a lot of you would say yes. However, this play is taking the opposite idea. And then what invitation does Scrooge's nephew offer? It offers Scrooge an invitation to Christmas dinner. So very good job, Connor. The next one we're going to look at is by Essie. And number 6, this is where you had to read that paragraph. And it was very important. And we needed to talk about what the nephew is saying about Christmas. He is saying, according to Essie, that Christmas is a time where everyone can get along, the rich and the poor, and open their hearts. And what does he mean when he says men and women seem to open their shut up hearts freely and think of people below them as they were fellow passengers of the grave? He means that when Christmas, everyone stops caring about money and should care about each other. A lot of you put that other people are equal. That is great. So this is that time. Think about those two social classes in the world of 1850, the rich and the poor. This is the time that the poor or the rich should open their shut up hearts and start caring about those poor people below them. That we should all be equal, that we should do good deeds without expecting profit from it. So that was a very big message she was getting out from. Anthony, I put Anthony back in here because I loved his analyzing of this part for number 7. He said he took the fellow passengers of the grave, and this is the way I didn't look at it, but however, he's still correct. It means that eventually everyone will end up in the grave, and no matter how rich or poor you are, in the grave, everyone is the same. So it goes back to that idea of everyone being equal. There is an end of life at one point for everyone, and no matter what, we will all be the same. So that was a really interesting way to look at it, Anthony. I was pretty happy with that. That was an awesome job. However, the big point is that we should all be treating each other equal and kind to each other. The next one is by Cordelia, and why does the nephew keep saying good afternoon? Well, he keeps repeating this. Scrooge keeps saying good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon in his grumpy voice, and that is because he wants that nephew to leave. He's done dealing with him. However, for number 9, I love how Cordy cites the whole scene. So she puts page number, and then she finds a line that reveals how Scrooge feels about the poor. Scrooge, it's not my business. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen. But, sir, Scrooge, think of the poor. Take your leave of my office, sirs, while I'm still smiling. So that shows us that he is completely ignoring the poor. That's very good that she supported all that. Very nice job there. And number 10, why does Scrooge think the workhouses are adequate? He thinks they deserve it because they are poor. They're adequate because, they should be working, and a lot of people put this for number 10, that they should have a purpose in life and they should be working. So that's a very good point. Here is from Ray, number 11, and I love this because it didn't ask Ray to provide evidence. However, he did it himself, which is perfect. This is a good 6th grade moving to 7th grade response. So do you think that Cratchit sees Scrooge for who he is clearly? Explain why or why not. Ray says, yes, I do think Cratchit knows how Scrooge really is like, because on page 749, line 6, Cratchit says, shh, after giving someone something away, I can infer that he knew that if he tried to give away anything, especially to the poor, under Scrooge's watch, Scrooge wouldn't like it. So he does know him very good because, and a lot of you put the same thing, however, I love that Ray had the evidence that, he had to hide giving money to the portly man and the thin man because he didn't want to upset his friends. So that means that he knows him very well. So very good answer. Richard said, Same thing for question number 11. Yes, because Cratchit knows Scrooge will not do anything for anyone unless he has to, which is very good, which is why Cratchit gives him the money. And then number 12. What do we learn about Scrooge as he shuts the lights in the office and through the description of him walking home? Richard says we know that he is very lonely and miserable and does not want to be bothered by anyone and does not want anyone to bother him. And that's a very great point there because, he walks alone. He swats at that window when the boy is singing. So clearly people are saying Merry Christmas to him and they're ignoring him. Nathan, back to questions 11 and 12 because these are some good answers. He said, I think Cratchit does not see him for who he is. He tries to wish him a Merry Christmas multiple times, but he keeps getting him cut off. I think Cratchit tries to bring out the best in Scrooge, but utterly fails. And I agree with you, Nathan. I think Cratchit is intending to help Scrooge and think highly of him, but he keeps failing because Scrooge doesn't want to accept it. So very good, Nathan. And then, so that was kind of the opposite thinking of Richard and Ray. And then number two, he says that Ebenezer isn't just rude to the people he knows, he's rude to everyone. So that is something we can also find out. He's rude to random people. So very great question, a lot of great analyzing. I was very impressed. Some people that also did very well that I graded their papers um, are Luke, Lucas, Tyler, and Dennis. You guys also did an extremely great job. Like I said, this was the best work I've seen all the whole school year. I had a hard time pulling out really great answers from you guys because they were all great. So keep up the hard work. I hope you enjoy reading this play. And like I said, please reach out if you want to read aloud and come to the live stream sessions or anything like that. That would be great. But you guys are doing awesome. So this week, you just have to read a discussion question. It's taking you back to question 11. And then I want you guys to think about it a little differently and then respond to each other's, okay? And then we're going to continue on with the play. So nice job, guys. Have a good day.